If you look at M&A and the fact that you want to get bigger, maybe you're looking at organic growth, but also M&A. If you look at regulation, and if you look at geopolitics, and in that I would put sanctions and concerns over Russia, what is your number one concern amongst those three?
Well, of course, our major concern today is geopolitics, because the banking sector in Russia is developing quite successfully. Actually, this year we expect the record profit for the whole banking sector of around 1.7 and 1.8 billion rubles. Trillion rubles. And in spite of the fact that the economy is not growing as fast as we would like to, I mean, we have a certain level of stability in our banking sector. So I think the major threat comes from outside. And of course, the possibility of new sanctions and looming over the banking sector and our investors.
Okay, so are you getting tired of these constant delays of possible new sanctions, in the U.S.? Is it better to just know exactly where you stand right now?
Of course, when anybody is told every day you will have sanctions, you you're just used to this, and you start not to care very much about this. So we have our plans as business as usual, but we're always ready for any developments, frankly speaking.
Okay, do you think President Putin will try and smooth things over at the G20 to avoid more sanctions, fresh sanctions?
Well, I don't think that we can put it this way. I think Mr. Putin is interested in meeting with President Trump, just as Mr. Trump should be interested in meeting Mr. Putin, because our relationship reached a very low, and everybody, I think, will benefit from improving this relationship. But I don't think that Mr. Putin will raise this question himself. I think it should be resolved in the context of the bilateral relations, which should improve, and we very much hope that any meeting between the two leaders could lead to better relationship. Though, of course, we always notice that after the meeting in Helsinki, for example, we had a very strong opposition from part of the Congress, opposition to any improvement of Russian of relationship with Russia, and we had new sanctions.
Mr. Kostin, given that you conceded defeat to the central bank over the size of your capital requirements, can you afford dividends at 50% of profit?
No, I don't think we can afford 50%. I think we still should count how much we can spend on dividends, because central bank has a little bit softer approach now on Basel III. They extended the implementation of Basel III in full for 1 year, and that will be enough for us to be in line with the Basel III regulations. But I don't think in this case we'll be ready to pay 50% dividends. But that's not a rule. That's not a law to pay 50% dividends. So we still should count. It depends on the results, or the year results. Then after that we'll be ready to announce how much we can pay as dividends.
But Mr. Kostin, how much lower do you think it will be?
How much?
Lower the dividend.
I don't know. I mean, that still have to be seen. We are interested in paying dividends to our shareholders. It's our policy to pay dividends. So as much as we can, we'll pay.
We're just hearing from Angela Merkel as we're having this interview, Mr. Kostin, saying that the world cannot close their eyes to broad swath of Russian meddling. Do you worry that Russia is isolated, and what can Russia do to be less isolated?
I don't think that Russia is isolated. We have meetings, and we have meetings with investors. For example, at our conference, there were 500 investors from all around the world, representing 63 countries. And I think our political leaders, Mr. Putin, our Minister for Foreign Affairs, they have regular meetings with their counterparts from all around the world. So no, I don't think so. Unfortunately, we don't have good relationship with America, and that should be improved. But no, America has its own problem. You know, I visited the APEC meeting in Port Moresby, and I could tell you that that there probably then America was isolated from other countries when Mr. Pence was very tough on talking about American policy towards China and other countries. And you know, everybody saw it as a threat to the principle of free trade in the area.
Mm-hmm. But do you think that the fact that what you just laid out in terms of geopolitics, does it actually have a discount on your share price?
Of course. We, you know,
of how much?
Our price today, the total evaluation is approximately our net profit for 3 years. So it's ridiculous. But of course, that's mainly we're under pressure of political situation, geopolitical situation. That's the market in general and our prices, of course.
Mr. Kostin, talk to me a little bit about the VTB Ukraine insolvency. First of all, how much has been reserved, and what is the worst case of how much more you could lose?
Well, we will not lose very much because most of it was reserved. But it's of course it's unique situation. Absolutely, it's there's all the principles of the law were violated. You know. Mr. Kolomoisky, who himself, of course, is now hiding because he stole a lot of money from his own bank. You know, he managed to arrest our assets in Ukraine, both shares and our assets, by claiming something against the Russian government. And of course, the VTB could not be responsible for the Russian government. We are a joint stock company. And that made absolutely impossible for us to operate in Ukraine. So we tried very hard to repay all the deposits to our clients, and we managed to do 90% of the job. And today, actually, the remaining balance is only about 100 million, which the banks still have to pay. And if now the new authorities would manage to properly dispose these assets, I'm sure they'll be able to repay all deposits both to the private clients and companies. But of course, if they sell for 1/5 of the price, then the situation could be different. But it's not a very, of course, as I said, a big sum to be repaid. But unfortunately, we were eager to do it ourselves, but we were not allowed to do it. That's because of the policy of the Ukrainian government, probably one of the first steps after they announced the martial law.
Mr. Kostin, one final question on Qatar. You put out a really strong denial about lending to the QIA to finance its Rosneft stake. Were they the indirect beneficiaries?
You know, I'm saying I never lie to the press, but I'm not always saying everything. So read my lips. I said we didn't give any loan to QIA. That's full stop. And I'm just people ask me, you know, whether it's true or not, and I said, look, let's have a bet. If I'm not right, I'll pay you. If you are not right, you'll pay me. I'm happy to pay now 1 million ruble to any journalist who will find whom we gave this loan for $6 billion. That's a guess.